Now, WION is the only Indian channel to get you a report from Ground Zero, and for that I'm joined in by our correspondent Bruce Harrison, who's joining me live from Seoul at this moment. Let's quickly go across to Bruce for all the details. A very good afternoon to you, Bruce. Now, South Korea has reported 256 new cases, with the total passing 2,000. What's the situation on Ground Zero like? We're also being told that there's been a shortage of masks.
Well, a lot developing here today in South Korea. The spike in numbers isn't totally unexpected. The government has launched a national campaign to test members of the Shincheonji Church, which you mentioned, to try and find more confirmed cases, but really to try and get those people into treatment as soon as possible if they are positive with the virus. Because there was so many people infected within the Daegu branch of the church, it's pretty much a fact at this point. They're going to run into more cases among Shincheonji congregations, and that's why we've seen this massive spike. The government's now working to secure more hospital beds and find the best way to treat these people. And they say that what they do hope is after this massive testing procedure, they reach a peak, and then numbers nationwide of confirmed cases start to fall, similar to what you'd seen in China, mainland China, outside of Hubei province. When it comes to masks, there's been a shortage for a while now, and that's one of the criticisms the president's been facing here. Why can't people get a hold of enough masks? The government has been ordering people not to bulk buy or panic buy masks. You mentioned some regulations, 5 masks per person. A lot of people have been buying dozens, if not hundreds, anticipating a long, long time in which they'll face a risk of infection from this virus. They think they need as many masks as possible for family as friends. That ultimately leaves some people without masks, as well as people within medical facilities, clinics that need them the most, more than anybody. So those regulations are serious. There's fines you can be punished for bulk buying at this time.
Much needed at the same time. Now, Bruce, since you mentioned the Shincheonji Church, at the center of the outbreak in South Korea is this church sect. With about 80% of the cases connected to the sect, are authorities acting in order to avert fear and hatred growing towards this community?
Yeah, there's concerns about that. Exactly just that. It's an unfortunate byproduct of an outbreak as such. In South Korea, people do have religious freedom, but this particular Christian church is looked down upon by what the government here would identify as mainstream Christian churches, and they are seen as outsiders, and their practices are seen as unorthodox. The way they pray, they don't use seats, they sit on the floor, close quarters, and it's believed that some of their practices have led to the spread of the disease. Reports among former members that we've heard in local media over the past few weeks have indicated that you're still required to go to church even if you're sick, you have a fever. And I'm not talking about the coronavirus, just illness in general. So yeah, a lot of these practices are frowned upon. So these people are facing significant scrutiny and criticism right now, and that's why this testing practice has been so difficult. Most of them don't want their identities revealed. They want to remain hidden, some from even their own families, that they're a part of this church. The government has promised not to release their information as it contacts them to try and test for the disease.
Right. Bruce, South Korea's National Assembly elections are all set to take place in April. And before the virus impacts the elections, what actions are the authorities taking to arrest the spread of COVID-19, especially at the airports?
Well, number one, this massive testing practice that they've put in place to try and test Shincheonji and other people, they really hope will eventually lead to a peak of the virus and then a gradual decline. You know, the elections are coming up, as you said. So how do we make sure people are safe queuing for voting, polling stations and such, when the event's just a month and a half off? I think the government really hopes to bring the situation under control by then. There's not much they can do, for example, in a city like Seoul right now. There are pockets of the virus. There's roughly between 55, 60 confirmed cases at this moment. They can disinfect the subways, they can disinfect buses and other public spaces, they can encourage people to wash their hands, wear face masks. But ultimately, the only way you can avoid coming into contact with the coronavirus is just staying home and not coming into contact with anybody. It will continue to spread, but those basic measures will help to an extent, especially as we come up to a major event like the elections. Until then, the government's canceling all public gatherings, encouraging people to stay off the streets protesting. They're encouraging people even to avoid large church services in the next few weeks, just until we know this calms down.
Bruce, it's been quite a while since the outbreak took place in South Korea. How has the coronavirus now in South Korea impacted the country's economy, including the entertainment sector, where BTS concerts had to be cancelled, which of course had 200,000 fans as attendees?
BTS is synonymous with Korea these days, right? Especially outside of South Korea. They have a massive fandom around the world and here. So to hear those concerts are canceled is a huge blow to their fans as well as to the music industry. But possibly, or almost certainly, a necessary precaution. South Korea far from the first country to cancel a major event like that. The government right now is working on pushing through an emergency budget to help prop up local economies that are going to suffer throughout this outbreak. It's unclear how long it'll last. The Moon government says maybe we can bring this under control in 3 to 4 weeks and then get things back on track. But for the time being, people aren't going out to eat. People aren't going to the movies as much. People are avoiding shopping malls. So domestic demand is down. Trade is down. It's taking a hit, South Korea, because of disrupted supply chain lines from China, which is its biggest trade partner. So Samsung, Hyundai, major industries, electronic, automotive, they're suffering as well. The government can only do so much with these reserve funds it's drawing up. Ultimately, more stringent measures will have to be taken. The Bank of Korea didn't lower the interest rate, which could encourage more investment and spending. Maybe it's just waiting to see if the government takes more measures to fight the virus. But I think a rate cut could be coming down the road because the economy is going to feel that sharp sting much sooner than later.
Clearly, and maybe March proves to be a very crucial month in terms of containment of the outbreak. Let's see how it all pans out, because let's not forget April is going to see elections in South Korea. On that note, thank you so much, Bruce Harrison, for bringing us all the latest.